Call the meeting to order at 5:35. And any adjustments to the agenda?
Well, I forgot to put the warrants on there, so we need to do those, and then I have a couple things I didn't put town manager report, I just have a couple things I wanna tell you guys about.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve the minutes of December 21st? You were not here, so.
Move to accept the minutes of Wednesday, December, 21st, 2016.
Yep, and I will second that. And if there's no further discussion, then all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Carpet replacement proposals, award contract. So we have the final results of that here.
There were two people that contractors that responded to the request, which was sent out quite a while ago, but we, as everybody knows, we had to get asbestos removal cost on here, and it's just that took us a long time, so that's why it's coming back up now. But the two contractors, one was Damien Floor Covering out of Vernon, the other one was Lawton Floor Design. I told them both to give me a middle of the road carpet tile because we kind of went back and forth on carpet. And you know, they were trying to give me prices on everything, and I just said, just both of you give me middle of the road carpet tile. So they both did that. The asbestos removal is not, I put all the costs here, but there are other contractors involved. So the asbestos removal will be done by a different company, and that amount was $2,340.
And who is it? Is that Catamount or something?
Yeah, Catamount. The moving the furniture out and then the moving the furniture in, Lawton had gotten an estimate from a moving company, and it was $1,200. So
You just broke it in here.
they definitely are going to have to come in and move the furniture out because the asbestos people will move in after that.
Right.
Then on the moving the furniture in, Damien Florin gave me a price for putting the furniture back, but Lawton will still use
Just split
the
it
mover.
out.
Yeah. So that's why there's a difference there.
So the asbestos people take the whole carpet and everything? Is that how that works?
Yeah.
They just come in and
Could take it all.
they
yeah.
do all the removal? Okay.
So then the carpet, you can see the two different prices. Their estimates are there, so you can look to see what the carpet is that they're proposing. The labor, they both will do it on the weekend, so that will shorten our time for being closed. Lawton added a little bit more money to do the weekend, and then Damien, he had already included that in his price. So the total came out, they were very close. Damien came in at $7,603.52 and Lawton came in at $7,309.38. So it really comes down to the carpet. I mean, there is a difference in the labor, but the biggest difference was in the carpet.
And have you seen
I
either
have
of the
not
carpets?
seen the carpet, no. I mean, when I talked to them, to be honest, even if I saw it, it doesn't.
No, I know. It's just, I mean.
Yeah. I know I know. That's why I was hoping, at least the middle of the road. I told them I wanted a carpet tile. I don't want the very cheapest,
Right.
It's high traffic. Obviously you can tell by looking at it, the traffic, they both came here. I said, but we don't really want to spend, we don't need top of the line either. So,
Right.
I'm hoping that the comparison between, I haven't had a chance to do any research on
Yeah.
either of them. I'm assuming they're comparable, but.
And he did, Matt at Lawton didn't give a brand or anything, whereas.
No, it just said middle of the road commercial carpet, I think, or something like that. Nylon carpet.
Small entry, that's just in Laura's office,
Yeah.
just right there, okay.
So. I mean, both of them have been very responsive. Both of them have been very patient.
I've used both of them in
Yeah.
my business and they're both,
Yeah, so,
Very
I
good
mean, the
and
process
reputable.
has not been easy because it's for a carpet, for just replacing carpet, it's been kind of a pain in the neck.
yeah.
So, you know, I've gone to both of them. Anytime I had a switch or had a question, I made sure both of them knew that I was asking the other one that question so that they both had equal opportunity to change their estimate if they wanted to. So, you know, besides having the carpet in front of me side by side, I don't know, which I could do if we want to do that, but besides that, I would say they're pretty, you know, comparing apples to apples as far as what.
Yeah, the only thing that's surprising to me is just the cost of the carpet itself being so dramatically different.
Yeah, because what is it, about 1,000?
Makes me wonder what, you know, and it may just be a different formula for how they charge for labor versus carpet, but, you know,
Yeah.
I don't know.
That's why I say the
But,
overall between labor and carpet, it's, you know, it's very
close.
It's
yeah.
very close. Well, we're $300 off.
Labor install, electrical.
That is interesting though.
Now, okay, and Damien does not show that tile area.
No,
But-
that
but
wasn't
that's
something.
included.
That wasn't something that I specifically asked for in the bid, but that's what, because of such the high traffic there, that's what Matt
Recommended.
recommended. You know, it wasn't something that he said he would feel better if that was there.
It's probably not a bad idea.
So I think for both of them, I didn't give them a time frame of when we wanted it done. I told them both that I'll be very patient with whatever schedule they have, because we're way off schedule.
And Catamount sometimes tends to be
Yeah.
out a little ways. Do you
Yeah,
have any
who
sense
knows?
of when they'd be available?
I don't,
They're-
because I didn't want to talk to them about it because I didn't know when I would be able to get this
Yeah.
all together.
I guess it would be a question of whether we want to see the carpet or
I think we're gonna find that they're all pretty darn close.
I would. That's what I would assume.
This is a fairly straightforward
Yeah.
bottom line.
Yeah. No, and you know, I mean, Damien has more in there for carpet tile, but Matt has the extra of the entryway, so that balances that a little bit. But I don't know. Anybody got a feeling about it?
Just looking at Lawton, in their estimate, they have $750 for labor.
Right, but I added $250 for the weekend.
Oh, I see, okay, I guess.
I had sent him a email later that said, please revise your quote to include weekend labor, and he sent me an email back, said add $250 to the quote.
It'd be 1,000 then, right? For labor.
Yeah, and then there's the other stuff I put in there. So the 2,304 is the carpet tile, then the rest, the balance is in that labor and miscellaneous. Probably some of that small entry should have been in the
Gotcha.
carpet, but.
Gotcha.
So I will make a motion to
So,
accept the bid for carpet replacement in the office to Lawton Floor Design.
and that would be based simply on the fact that it's $300 less.
That's
Yeah.
cost.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I said.
No,
both
because again,
great.
yeah, I
Maybe better.
have no qualms with either of them being vendors, so.
Yeah, I'll second that. I guess one other question I would ask is that, are these equally easy to clean? Do we know that?
Probably. I mean, carpet tile tends to be,
Not the same?
Yeah.
you know, I mean, a middle of the road versus, you know, again, it's
Me?
hard.
Nylon commercial, right, nylon
I'm
commercial
sorry.
tile.
For your monthly shampoo?
You know, just that difference in price in the carpet itself makes me wonder a little bit. I mean, I just, you
Yeah,
know,
it's up to you guys if
if
you
they're
want me to,
comparable. I mean, we could get a sample of each of them, but I'm
Entirely.
not too concerned
We've
about
dragged
it.
this out for considerable length of time, so I would suggest that we
Just go ahead.
Okay.
I'm fine with it.
Okay.
Been moved and seconded to accept Lawton Ford Designs bid for carpet installation. If there's no further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Okay.
Hopefully it'll be in before next winter.
Wyndham County Sheriff's Department. This is well, I know, I actually just talked to Matt about a job the other day, and I know they're looking at.
Well, and he had told me that.
They're in the end of February right now.
Yeah,
So
he
if you want to get on
Yeah, he had told me that.
Catamount and their schedule,
Well, and I don't think we wanna do anything before spring, before that.
just so you can air out and have open windows.
Yeah,
Yeah, okay.
we've got a lot of
Get
stuff
all
to go
the-
through first.
Winter
that
dirt,
too.
sand, and
Yeah,
salt
yeah.
on it
Yeah.
from right now.
Yeah, there you go. Good answer. A little extra tipping
Yeah.
charge, but.
Exactly.
All right, Wyndham County Sheriff Department contract.
So, there's a copy of the contract in there, and it's basically just a duplication of what we signed from
Similar.
July to
Yeah.
December.
Yeah,
It's the $4,246.67 per month. It goes through June 30th of 2017. It's for an average of 80 hours per month, which is what we've been talking about. It's just 20 hours a week is what we've been getting. I talked to Keith today to make sure that this was still, because it's after the 1st, I didn't know what's going on. So he said, yes, this is still, he'll still accept this if it's signed, and they're still patrolling, he hasn't stopped.
I saw Josh
Yeah.
today.
One question that I was asked today was, if there was another decision made, like in the next 6 months, if the committee gets to be more active and we, make a change, can we get out of this contract? And it's a 30-day
From,
termination, yeah. Either party can say with 30 days
Right.
notice that we
yeah,
want to
that's
terminate it, so.
that's what he said.
There really isn't much more for me to say about the contract, it's pretty,
This is some mistake in number 5, it says will not
Per
exceed
annum.
25,000 per annum, so that would be
That was his.
I was about to say,
per half.
I'll have to
flip
fix
what
that.
you're saying there, that if we were to reach some change decision or whatnot, that we could carry on, say, on a monthly basis for, a month or two beyond the end of this 6-month period.
He has,
In order,
he has said that
there's that, is there
before,
that
yeah.
flexibility?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Both, just going both directions.
yeah, I didn't ask that question, but like Josh said, I think he's been asked that.
yeah.
He
No,
has,
it's just-
he has said before that
It might be worth
carry
just
on.
verifying that.
Yeah,
If we needed another 30 days.
When does this open up to discussion?
anytime. Do you have something to say?
I do.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Janet Goldstein.
Hi, Janet.
And, hi. And I've showed interest at the last meeting of joining the Public Safety Committee. And since then, I've spoken to a couple of people, and I've spoken with Jeremy, and about us really following through with having our own constable and what that would look like and how to actually go about doing that and what it would cost. And Jeremy was nice enough to work out a bunch of numbers for us to look at.
Probably, just for the record, you're probably not talking about our own constable, you're probably talking about our own law enforcement officer. A constable is an elected and/or an appointed position versus you're talking about forming our own department for practical purposes,
Or-
right? Or not?
From what I was understanding is that it was kind of sort of an interconnected thing.
Could be, yeah.
That it could be
Yeah.
an interconnected thing. And I have the Vermont statutes here to leave a copy and a copy of this stuff to leave
Mhm.
with you as well. What I would like to just kind of put a bug in your ear about when you're considering the budget and considering signing this contract with them, that it's not out of our realm to be able to afford to have somebody come in and work a 40-hour week. And from what I remember, when Melissa was here under the grant, we were all very happy with the services that we received. And the sheriff's department was not involved at all, really, in that patrolling when she was not around. If she was out sick, if she was on vacation, we called the Vermont State Police, and the Vermont State Police responded. And if it was an emergency, they came right away. And if it wasn't, they asked to please defer it when Melissa came back. So, I started thinking about that and thinking like, we don't need to jump from zero, having no officer, to having a department, so to speak, But we could jump from having nobody to having one person on board who worked a 40-hour week, who could start soon, not necessarily as enforcing, because we would have to get like car and guns and equipment and all of that stuff, a space for them to be and everything. But if we were to hire somebody, it could conceivably take them like 1 to 4 months to put together grants, to put together a space, to put all of this in motion. And in April or May, we could conceivably be doing our own thing, getting way more services for our money than what we currently get with the sheriff's department. And so we can't apply for grants until we've hired somebody. So it's sort of like we need to kind of jump ahead a little bit in that aspect before we can actually get the money to buy things. And I think that there are enough grants out there that will cover the cost of getting a car and getting a cruiser and getting all the equipment up and running. There's also a grant, the COPS grant, I think is called, and that you can get up to $40,000 a year in salary for
That's
3
the
years.
grant that we had initially, was a COPS grant.
Was a COPS grant.
Yeah.
So, but we could apply for that
Right.
because
Yeah.
it's a completely different scenario.
Yeah.
And then in the future, if we wanted to hire somebody part-time as well, we could reapply for that grant because it's a
second
different
person. Right.
person. It's a different entity. It changes the department in some way. So, but we need to have hired somebody in order to get a number, in order to get the, oh wait, I have it on another piece of paper.
Let me just
Okay.
make a
So-
comment as far as the time frame is concerned. Because the budget that we're discussing is for FY 17-18. So it starts June 30th,
Yep.
17. So we would not be able to make a change like that previous to that time because it is not in the budget of our current year.
But what is in our budget of the current year? I'm sorry, did I cut you off?
No, that's fine. Basically, time frame wise, what would make more sense to me would be to have this. What I would ask you to do is to be prepared to present this information, or with the Public Safety Committee or however at town meeting. Because that's really the time when it would be, and I'm not trying to cut you off.
No, I understand that.
But it would be. We wouldn't really. I suppose we have enough money in our budget so that we could do something before June 30th. But the logical way from accounting, etc., would be to make a change as of June 30th. And in that case, we could have had the discussion at town meeting, come up with a budget, or essentially what you would be doing if you were doing that at town meeting, and I'm happy to help you think about
I
this
have
if
no
you want
problem
to.
presenting it at a meeting.
Right. What you would be doing is asking for a change, to the budget that we're going to present, to allow it to be a larger budget to allow this to go forward. To do this mid-year is probably something that I would have a hard time feeling right about. That doesn't mean that at town meeting, and if everybody said resoundingly, yes, this is definitely something we want to do, that we couldn't in some way, starting in, as you said, April or May, hire somebody so that that organizational stuff, but it would have to be sort of a stipend or something. I'm not sure how we do that.
But we're paying we have money budgeted to pay the sheriff's department.
We do, but it's not a huge amount of money.
And so I wonder if we were to find somebody who would work for that amount of money to start the grant process, so that when the 6 months was over, we could be good to go with our own thing, you know? I mean, in the meantime, they could, be getting grants and doing research and stuff like that to pay for everything.
Right.
So I think that there's a way I can see a way where maybe it can coexist with what we have now and then take it over, because we don't get investigating. We don't get, anybody doing safety at the schools. we're not getting all of this extra stuff that we as a community at the last meeting, in the first meeting, that really said that we wanted.
I don't mean to interrupt you.
No, well,
I guess one of the things that I'm remembering from that last public safety meeting that we had was that I felt like there was definite support in the room for having something that is within our purview in the town, but it felt to me like it was more a person that was, the term social work kept coming up.
Yeah.
So I thought what was going to happen is after that public safety meeting, of course the holidays came and it's not an easy time of year for everybody to get together, was that there was going to be a proposal or something tried to be gathered together to say, okay, if we're going to have a constable, do we want the constable to have policing duties or not? Do we want to hire another person that's possibly more just a social worker, that's a liaison? There was all of these ideas floating around that I don't, and maybe that's part of this, maybe that's part of what you're saying. That I'm just trying to relay what I heard at that meeting.
Yeah.
And we have not, that public safety committee has not regrouped since that last meeting to even digest that meeting, and I have concerns about the logistics and just the setup of just hiring somebody and giving them the money that is in there for this, because I don't know what that looks like. I don't know what that, are they considered a full-time employee? Do they get benefit? I mean, and I'm not saying it can't be done, it's just, it's more difficult than just saying you're hired because of the logistics of, like you said, bookkeeping and paperwork, and you have to have a framework of what that, even if it's a job description. And I'm not saying we can't get one in 2 months or 3 months or whatever, and before June 30th, but I don't know. That's my concerns as how, if we were to say to somebody, we're going to appoint you constable, other than what state statute has, what is it that the town is expecting and how do I manage that?
Right.
And that's what I feel like I don't have a handle on. And not saying we can't get there. I think that's where everybody was looking to go. I really do.
I think that whoever we would hire would have to fall into some kind of social worker role as well. Absolutely. But I guess I just wanted to make sure that there was a way to present this into the budget and to think about this for you're making the budget now.
Right.
So somehow some way to present that it's going to be a little bit more money into the budget now to support something like this. And
I think you would be looking, I think I would be hesitant to make a change like that without voter approval, essentially, or voter input anyway, at town meeting. I mean, that's sort of what we've discussed. You know, that then would be, you know, could we come up with some money after town meeting day? I mean, what's our total
Well-
public safety, our total sheriff's department budget?
Right now, well, last year it was 57,000. This year I plugged a number in that it is equivalent to 20 hours a week.
Right,
But, I mean, obviously we can change that. I mean, the other thing that could be done is we could put the 57,000, it would level fund it.
Right.
We could put that in there, and then if you're ready at town meeting to present during the budget discussion,
exactly. It could be an
it
addendum
could be
to the-
increased at
yeah.
that point.
That's what,
That's, I guess, what I wanted
that's what I
to-
would recommend.
That's what I wanted to make
Right.
sure that there was something in the budget that would reflect us moving forward with this. And that, I guess I just wanted you guys to know that, you know, I'm sort of jumping into this. And I I called the constable up in Castleton. And we're gonna meet
Okay.
on the 13th of January up there and talk about like what it is he does and how he does it and how it's different from the police officer that they also have. And they're also gonna come, their police person.
Whoever,
Whoever
is that a
they
local,
are.
do they have
It's
a
a
local
local
department?
person,
It
yeah.
is.
Yeah, I mean, I
So-
think my thinking is
So just to see
a
how
number
many-
in there needs to be, there needs to
Right,
be a
and-
number
Right.
of some sort.
Right.
And then, I mean, if you got your ducks in a row prior to town meeting and,
Which I would encourage you to do. I think that would be great. I mean, I think that we would all like to see this be at an absolute minimum, a thorough discussion. But optimally, maybe the inclusion of some funding for moving forward. The other thing I would say is, my personal feeling would be, we have the luxury of time because we have the sheriff's department covering us, and it's a different service than we had. But I would be much more supportive of something like this if it was really well thought out and well planned. And, you know, if that means that it has to be well planned, that these grants would be applied for once somebody was hired kind of thing, that's fine, but we really need a solid structure for it. Because as Cynthia is saying, to just sort of say, hey, let's go hire somebody and then see what comes of it.
Yeah.
well, the other
Well,
thing I wanna
I
tell you
didn't-
though is the opportunity to put more money. We have a town meeting once a year.
Right.
That doesn't mean we can't have a special town meeting.
Right.
Okay.
So if
See, I
by,
wasn't sure about
so
that.
if
That's
by
why I wanted to
March,
make sure
so if
that-
by March it's not looking like it's pulling together,
We could do it in June
we could do it in
or
June,
whenever.
you
Yeah.
know, and you can add more money. It really has to be done before we send tax bills. Otherwise, we're sending out a supplemental bill. But, you know, it could be, I would say March, April. I would say May would be, you know, if you're not ready in March, then we'll do it in,
I think that we could probably get something.
Yeah, I-
Well,
yeah.
and I
It's
would
2
think, I
months
mean,
away.
I'm not sure that needs to be totally concrete at town meeting day time, but what you could do is sort of present a concept and say, you know, this is how we think it could be funded if we include X amount in the budget for year one, you know, to maybe more, maybe we stay with 20 hours a week, but at the same time, take on somebody, as you say, transition into it. I think that would be a great idea and probably the more effective way of doing this than trying to sort of stop here and start again, you know.
The only thing I would say is if you do think that you can pull it together before March, I would do as much public outreach as we can, because
To get
if
people
all of
there
a
for it.
sudden on the floor at town meeting, something happens where we add more money to the budget and people don't feel like they were informed that that was gonna be
Yeah.
a discussion, you're most likely gonna have people re-petition the town to vote on the budget again.
And
I've been through it in my own town, so
and we can
that
we
happens
can
if-
help with
yeah,
that.
we can
I
help with
mean,
that.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's great. Okay, I mean, I see
I-
it's doable, and that's what I was saying. Like there could in the interim, like it's going to take a few months to get it. We could, you know, but we need to hire somebody before the grants can be applied for, because we need to have like our number. The only I can't remember what it's called. What is that number called?
It's some type of police agency number or something.
Yeah.
What department?
Can you not do that with just, what if we don't have, if we
What,
have.
what if we
if
formed
we-
a department but didn't hire somebody for it until we had grant?
But what
I don't
if
know
we
what
only
could
were
do.
doing the constable thing, the
I was
constable
just gonna say,
concept, is that a
appoint
police
the
department?
constable with a stipend.
With a-
Can a
yeah.
constable, if you,
I
let-
think yes.
okay,
I
so that's a
think yes.
question we need to have answered.
So, okay.
Because
So-
we already can appoint a constable.
Right,
Mhm.
right, and we don't really have to, other than a stipend,
But I thought there was
Fund
some type of, I thought to get the cops grant, there was some type of police, like some type of number you needed.
Yes, there is.
But we don't have that
department
as a
number or
But we
constable.
can't get that number from the state
Mhm.
until we form something.
Right,
Right,
but we
so-
might not have to hire somebody
It's
to
ki-
inform
yeah, it's
somebody.
like this-
Yeah, so we need to find
It's
that.
a weird circle.
The other thing I would encourage you to do is to track down the Public Safety Committee right away and include them. Because,
Yeah, it needs to be
because
a
trying to do
committee
this-
meeting,
exactly.
because otherwise they're
I
gonna
can do it
feel,
all by
yeah.
myself, no
Yeah.
way.
No, you don't want to, but also just, you know, if there's a sense that sort of they're trying to be skirted around, which I know you're not trying to do,
No,
but if
not
there's
at
a
all.
perception of that,
I was-
then you
no,
want to avoid that, you know.
Yeah, no, I was just thinking that if I had the time and I was able to gather information, that then I
They'd
could
be
go
very happy
and
with you.
present it to everybody to figure out. But I'll give you my name and email.
I have it all.
Oh, you have it?
Yeah, I have
You
all that
it.
stuff.
So,
Um,
and then you can get in touch with me. But
I mean, I
I
think-
guess I just feel like I don't wanna just sit back and say, hey, we need this, we should do it, somebody should do it, and nobody's stepping up.
Yeah,
So
no, I
don't mind
appreciate it,
stepping
yeah.
up and working on it, but I don't wanna be the only one working.
No, and I think I think you would have broad support for the concept of doing something different. You know, whether it ends up being exactly what you're thinking or, you know, what it morphs into is hard to say, but again, I think that's where the luxury of time would be you'd be wise to take advantage of it and do, you know, really get things in order before we try and do something, because otherwise, just the likelihood of it not going as well if it isn't really in order is better, so.
Okay, I don't wanna take up more of your meeting, you have a lot of stuff to discuss as well, but, I appreciate that that you can just keep in mind that, you know, that some other money in the budget might be necessary.
Well, we
or-
probably won't include that in the budget, in the budget that we present, but again, it could be changed from the floor at town
Yeah.
meeting,
Right.
which would be really the appropriate way to do this on what is in fact a relatively short time frame.
Mhm. Well, that's
Versus,
why
and then over the next year, you know, it might be town meeting 2018 before we're saying, yes, we definitely want to do this and this is how much it's going to cost and so on and so forth, but
Hopefully not.
well, no, I don't think he means we, the select board, I think he means we, the
the
town.
people of Putney.
Yeah,
Oh, the people.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
it takes, I mean, setting up a department is, I don't know, I mean, Jeremy might have a different opinion about that, but I think you'd be smart to spend a significant chunk of time figuring this out before we leap into it, because otherwise I think the likelihood of failure is much higher, so.
yeah, I mean, the feedback that I got after the last meeting was mostly, we do not want a department.
Right.
It was, we need somebody that is dedicated to Putney, that will help identify problems, that will be out there talking to people, that might have police power, might
Right.
not. That I got
Very clearly.
very clear
Yeah.
from,
I
and
just
I'm
don't know
ta-
what, I just don't know the word
I don't
Well,
either.
and
to
it-
call them, and that's why I kept going back, I'm going back and forth between constable
Constable
and
and-
officer.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
Cause I
yeah.
just don't know the word to
And
be
I
social
think-
worker, I don't know the word.
Community
to
outreach
use.
person.
I totally
yeah, I
agree with you. I think that's why and I think that's why it's important to everybody regroup and get back together and talk about this again.
And I also think that, as came up at that meeting, you know, this person could be, you know, law enforcement to a certain degree, but there's a real spectrum across the community, you know, again, as we talked about at that meeting, of needs. And who that person is and how you find them and what their training is and so on and so forth is a complicated question. You know, I think that the Windham County Sheriff's Department provides us with policing as it is now. Would we be, well, it's more than that, you know, but would we be smart to keep them but have somebody really, and again, this came up at that meeting, sort of the concept of a liaison or a, you know, what that would look like, I don't know exactly. But would we be wiser to keep them and supplement it with another person versus trying to do our own thing? Because I agree with Cynthia. I think it was a pretty clear message that we do not want a police department. And I'm not saying we don't, I'm just saying that was the message that sounded like it was there. It's a big expense to start our own department, there's no question about it. So,
Oh, yeah, and the Vermont State Police are gonna do the job that they do now
right,
for us, so how far we go that way is still subject to that they are still there.
yeah,
So we don't have to go all the way because they're still there.
yeah,
And we're a small community, there are only 2,000 people, so.
yeah.
Okay, sorry.
Thank you,
That's
Janet.
fine.
I
Appreciate
appreciate
it.
your time, thank you.
Yeah, no,
And,
appreciate yours as well.
I guess
Intriguing.
we'll talk.
Be in touch,
Be in touch.
sounds good.
Thank you.
And you know where I live, so if you,
Yeah, I do. And you know where I live.
yeah. We're neighbors. Sort of.
Sort of. Kind of.
Okay, so you guys still need a vote, yay or nay, on whether I should sign this contract or not.
Well, I mean, even in lieu of that, I'm saying we got the 30 days, so.
Right, well, and even with the
So-
30 days, I mean, I think the time frame realistically, as I was saying, you know, some sort of endorsement from town meeting time through June 30th is not a lot of time, but it's enough to do something if we chose to, kind of thing,
Right.
so.
Yep.
But I don't, well, yeah, let's go ahead with this. Anybody want to move this?
I will move that we accept the contract for law enforcement services from Windham County Sheriff's Department from January 1st, 2017 to June 30th, 2017, in the amount of, or not to exceed, 25,000 for, no, that's the per annum, that's the.
No, that is the
That's
6
right.
month, he just,
Yeah,
the per
That
annum
is the
is
6
wrong.
month, 25,480.
We'll take it as a
Let's
per annum
keep it per
thing.
annum.
I think I tried that
Send it
before.
back.
I'll have him fix that before I sign it.
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded to accept the contract for law enforcement services with the Windham County Sheriff's Department. If there's no further discussion, all in favor? Aye. All right, so
Okay.
what do you want to do? Now, do we need to address this? This is, Steve and I talked about this a little bit last time. This is the Adam Abrams. His mother passed away several years ago. It's been a BCA issue.
Yes.
It needs,
He came back yet again.
well, he came back essentially because of seemingly because of lack of communication from the clerk's office, so he came to the select board to appeal for a hearing. And I have not spoken to Anita.
Okay. I mean,
So maybe we're not dealing with this now, but
No, I just left it here to remind you that,
we need to.
yeah, just basically to say that I am reminding.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
I mean, because the way we left it last time was I had asked her for the letters of the decisions.
Right, and we
Because
didn't have
he can't
those.
appeal.
Right, until we know what the,
We can't until we know which
Situation.
years that have been denied.
yeah,
Yeah. And I haven't seen it. So.
yeah. That's you.
I'm
Okay.
checking on my son
Yeah,
driving.
I was
in
gonna say
the
we're all
snow.
buzzing here, you know?
He's only 22.
Where's he driving from?
Well, he's in Colorado. They're getting like 2 feet of snow, and he's got like, yeah.
He lives in Colorado. He knows how to drive in the snow.
I know.
Kid grew up in Vermont. Come on.
It's more
Yeah,
fun than
that's
driving
all
this stuff.
great.
Right. That's the difference between learning to ski on rocks and ice and fine powder.
Okay. Enough of that.
between a 600-foot drop and a 6,000-foot drop, right? All right, so do we want to move right into budget
Yeah.
stuff? Okay.
Yep.
Capital plan.
Okay, so in your pile, on the top, no, it's this one that has an email on top of it. Yeah. So I sent a new capital plan to everybody yesterday, and what I had said is in this capital plan, there's a couple changes from last year. The first one was the replacement of the dump truck. The total cost will be borrowed. Most of the time we do like, you know, I call it a down payment, but it's not really.
Right.
And we're not gonna do that this year because of the 20,000 that I put in for the new lawn mowing equipment and small utility truck, so I just shifted it over.
So essentially, the money we would have used for a down payment will
Yeah.
go for that,
And
and
then we'll
borrow
stretch
for
that.
the truck.
Brian told me he doesn't think that the truck is gonna be that much anyways, he doesn't know what the trade-in is.
The Mac.
The Mac, yeah, so. And then the medium rescue vehicle, Tom and I talked about that, he's having to do a lot of repairs to it. It was scheduled to be replaced in 2019, we've just shifted it to, it doesn't affect next year's budget, but the plan, it's been moved to 2018. Like I said, the mowing equipment and the small utility truck have been added. All the amounts on the schedule have been updated with actual payments plus interest. And then I added the sidewalk phase 2 and 3 for next year because I'm gonna borrow the money now. But the payments in there are estimates, so they'll change a little bit next year. So we're actually, the total overall is down a little bit from last year, but we stayed pretty constant between, if you look at the bottom line, the
Yeah.
290 and 310, somewhere around there. So if this all looks good to everybody, we'll put this in the town report.
Do we need a motion?
Why don't
Do
we? Yeah, I don't think we did last year, but
We'll make a motion that we accept the capital plan as presented.
Second.
Do you want to date that to this meeting, or?
yeah, I will.
Okay.
I'll put it.
All right.
It's been moved and seconded to accept the capital replacement plan as presented. If there's no further discussion, all in favor? Aye. Okay. Highway.
So I don't know, Scott, have you been here for the discussion about the excavator? You were at the initial discussion, right?
The excavator, yes. And where are we?
So, we talked about the highway budget last time, but what, Josh and Steve asked me to do was to look into other financing options. So let's just go back. The option that we've looked at is a lease purchase. So it's not like a lease that we're all used to when we lease a car and at the end of the term, you turn the car in. And at the end of the 10 years, it would become our piece
Right,
of
more
equipment.
of a rent to own.
Right, exactly.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah.
So what I did was I did some research on different options. If we were to purchase it outright and do a 5-year borrowing, then that's the top one. So the total cost over the 5 years, this is estimating a rate of 2%, which is kind of the range we've been getting. The total cost is $160,060. The next one is a 10-year. And remember, what we're trying to do in this budget is just shift the cost from contracted services, which has normally been $20,000, over to a lease payment. So the 5-year option actually
Is more.
is more. So that's why we're trying to look at this 10-year option. The 10-year option of borrowing would require a bond vote, which is a special Australian ballot vote, because you owe anything over 5, you have to do it. That requires an informational meeting. It's not a big deal, but what I don't like about that is not A lot of people show up to the informational part, but then they go in to vote and didn't hear the whole explanation as to what we're trying to do. That would bother
Right.
me.
Yeah.
But that's 167,610. And then the bottom one is the annual, that's the lease that has been presented. So that's 168,660 over the term of the lease. And then the second page shows, I looked into the municipal equipment loan fund, which is through the Vermont State Treasurer's Office. You can borrow up to 75%. They're at a 2% interest rate. So that's the payback, which is 157,795. But that first year we have to have 37,750 as our share. What I found interesting about this, which I did not really know about this before I started doing all this research, is that if you purchase a piece of equipment with another municipality, there is no interest.
Right, you get a discount.
It's a zero, there's no interest, you have to pay that.
Why is that? Just
I think
to
they're-
encourage it?
I think they're
Is that the-
encouraging.
Yeah, I
which
mean, it
is-
certainly makes sense. It's
Yeah.
frustrating that.
Certain equipment.
Well, we tried to do
Think
it
about
with
the
this.
sand pit, right, think about the sand pit at home.
Pros and cons.
Sharing the
No,
toys.
I know. No,
Yeah.
I'm not endorsing it
Well, there
necessarily, but
certainly is equipment you can't, and this would have been a piece of equipment that would have,
might have made sense.
I mean,
Yeah.
that gravel processor that existed.
Right,
in
for years.
Boston,
Yeah, yeah.
and particularly where we're sharing a pit or something
Yeah.
like that, that makes a lot of sense.
and then the other thing that's in this budget is the new highway position, which I think from the last meeting and from the meeting before, I got the sense that you guys were okay with the new highway.
Sorry, say that
The
again?
new highway position.
Yeah.
So, one of the things that we talked.
Which you've
Yes.
heard about and are
Yeah.
filled in on.
The fire,
Yeah.
not the fire.
It's a,
Yep.
an additional person, maintenance, highway, sort of more general person.
Plug-in person.
So I did talk to an attorney at the league and asked him, first of all, what was the legal way to go through this? And I think I said this before,
The
was
legal way,
for the
we're talking
excavator.
about the excavator?
Excavator. Was it's perfectly acceptable for us to put it in the budget, as long as the lease agreement says that it's contingent on
Approval.
approval every year, please.
Oh, that's right.
And I called the company and that's just standard language for them because they deal with municipalities all the time.
Right.
So that's not a problem, that's in there. Brian and I both, we talked about this, do we put it on even though we don't legally have to put it on a warning, should we put it on a warning? The 10-year thing is gonna cause us a little bit of a problem having it just as a warning article when we don't really need it. So one of the things him and I talked about is that if you guys were in agreement that we would put this into the budget as a lease payment, that at the bottom of the warning, and hopefully there'll be, enough money in enough room on that page where the article is in the town, or the warning,
That
to
you
put
could
like a
put a little
note box
blurb,
that
yeah.
says, during highway discussion, we will be talking about the purchase of the lease of a new excavator. Please go to the highway foreman report for details. So that it's there, and make it known that this is gonna be part of the discussion of the budget. So,
Yeah, because whether we hear about it at town meeting or outside of town meeting, this
Yeah.
is gonna be controversial. I think. I mean, I know there are a significant number of people who think this is an extraneous expenditure
Yeah.
that we definitely don't need.
yeah, and I don't know if once they hear the
Logic.
logic behind it.
Yeah,
I was talking to the guy up to Milton Cat, and they're the ones that gave us and John Deere also does a lease. So, when I was talking to him and he was telling me how much it costs to rent a piece of equipment and, it can sit there for 4 weeks and we might be able to use it, we might not, and then this is available to us all the time. And, then we can bill for grants,
right.
our own equipment. When I hear all that, it's like it's a no-brainer because we're not spending any more money. Now, if we were leaving contracted services at 20
Right.
and also
And
adding a
elements.
payment,
Right.
that seems,
Yeah.
so, although I understand where people are coming from, I think once they hear what we're trying to do, and then at the end of this, it'll be our piece of equipment, you know, but then there is a cost to owning something and
Yeah.
insurance and.
Mhm.
So the last thing, and Brian said to me, the last thing that either him or I wanna do is make it look like we're trying to stuff something in the budget.
Right.
I personally know how that feels. I've had that feeling before, and I don't want to do that. But just the mechanics of town meeting with trying to figure it out.
It's
is
not that
just-
simple, yeah.
I mean, one of the things that the attorney kept saying to me on the phone was, you know, the board doesn't even need to ask for voter approval to buy highway equipment.
Right.
And I said, I know by law we don't
Right.
have to.
Right.
But
That's not the issue. Yeah.
That's not the, we don't wanna do that. We
Yeah.
don't wanna have that be the discussion, you know?
Out of curiosity, the $20,000 for contracted services, what is that split between? I mean, what portion of that would go to an excavator, for example? Or would it go to an excavator and maybe some other piece of equipment?
Typically, Brian answered that.
I think,
I
I think
wanna
most of it.
I
Most
wanna
of
say
it,
it was
is it?
12 to 14,
Yeah.
and then some was for
Yeah.
plowing and other,
Oh,
but some of
that
the,
was the other.
Yeah, it was mostly, it's mostly rental of yeah,
exactly,
With a special
Yeah.
ed,
rental and or subcontracting
Right.
somebody to do it.
yeah, most of the time they do rent it unless they don't have the time to do something.
Right.
We did leave a little bit of money in the contracted services because you never know.
Right.
You know, we might need a bigger piece of equipment
Right,
or,
yeah,
so it's not an actual we're not, it's a little bit more,
Right.
but, you know, not that much more, like 1,000 maybe. So, I mean, if you guys are comfortable with that, then this budget hasn't changed other than trying to figure this out. Or if you're more comfortable with putting the contracted services in and then bring this up at town meeting and do an amendment if you want to, that can be done too. It's up to you how you, I mean, I think after hearing everything and talking to the cat dealer and talking to Brian and the logical sense it makes that we can bill for our own equipment when we do grants and that kind of thing, to me it feels like it's a no-brainer,
it makes
but
sense. And the cost of the piece of equipment, you said Nortrax could also do it's Milton Cat or Nortrax. I mean, we haven't decided on
We have
the
not
specific piece
decided.
of it, but this would be a not to exceed kind of thing.
right, we would
Yeah.
still go out and get quotes.
Right,
I think where the
Yeah,
difficulty
test
is
the
gonna be is
equipment,
I'm
so-
not sure that John Deere makes the size equipment that we're talking about. Theirs might be a little bigger. I don't know. So Brian was telling me that, but we would certainly ask and find out what
Yeah.
if the bigger one might cost
Yeah.
the same. I don't know.
Yeah,
Yeah, so we're not limiting it to just this. We just had to get a quote to get. If we can't get that lease, we wouldn't.
entertain.
No, we just
Yeah.
move the money back to contracted services and
Right.
do what we've always done.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, you know, having heard Brian and, you know, I'm not adverse to this. I think it probably, this seems like the more logical way to go than contracted services, and therefore probably makes sense to have it in the budget, and then if we need to amend it to not have it, then we do that. But does that make sense?
I do know Westminster bought one. Theirs is a little smaller, I think.
And how did they squeak it past without people knowing what was going on?
Because they have an equipment fund
Oh, a fund.
and they don't have to.
So they just want
They
to.
can use it on what
And
they
has it
want.
been going over?
That's fine,
people
actually.
happy with it?
Yeah, I don't
Nobody's
think that
complaining.
anybody. We've noticed a difference actually to
A
the.
little improved.
Yeah,
on
because they can
culverts
use
and-
it more.
yeah.
Well, and mostly for them, I think it's been the
Clean
road
up the
ditching.
sides, yeah.
I think that Guilford is getting one this year,
Mhm.
and I don't know if Dummerston. Those were the 3 towns we talked to
Right.
about maybe sharing,
Yeah.
and that just didn't come together.
Yeah.
So
Does Demerson know about this zero interest?
I didn't tell them. I don't know if they do or not. But
With that, it would come out to almost,
Yeah, if it's $17,000, $18,000 in savings.
yeah. But,
Over 10 years though, you know,
Yeah.
$1,800 a year to not have to, you know, I mean, that, I would think the difficulty of sharing it is
Scheduling.
conflicting scheduling,
Yeah.
but also
Scheduling,
trucking,
moving
you know, you gotta move it around.
Who's-
you gotta-
right.
Well, that's what I said,
For
Westminster would have been the
$1,800 a
idea.
year.
Where, how did it break? when it was
Westminster
there,
probably,
where?
if we were gonna share, Westminster would have been the, because we're, the proximity of
Close,
we're
right.
so close to,
Right,
yeah, but,
no,
Yeah.
and for $1,800 a year, that doesn't, well, I suppose it would be $1,800 a year and then cut the other payment in half, so
Right.
that would be more significant, but, you know, if we were looking at 8 or 9% interest, I think that would be
yeah.
a different conversation, but at 2%, it's just not that much money, you know, so. All right, anybody have a hankering to move this highway budget?
So moved.
Second.
So the highway budget as currently presented, which includes the lease purchase agreement concept for an excavator, has been moved and seconded. If there's no further discussion,
That's this one, right? Yeah.
all in favor?
What, did you have a question?
That was, yeah, so that's this, so I was just,
All in favor?
All right.
aye.
Aye. All right, sewer?
Okay, so the sewer budget, the overall budget has increased by 2.3%. We will not have to raise rates even though there's an increase because we've added some users. We're on track this year to bill around 204,000, which is actually close to what our budget would be for next year, for user fees, and we're gonna be adding some more users in this next year. So the 205, 531 is what I'm looking to
Yeah.
raise through user fees. The Simon's contract has gone up 3%, that's just standard 3% every year, they're a 3-year contract.
And we're in the.
We're in the
middle of
last
second last
year, yeah, this will be the last, it's up June 2018.
Okay.
The maintenance line, you'll see where it says maintenance and then chemicals. We've been over on that maintenance line, it seems like every year we go over. So I broke out, chemicals are costing us around 7,000 a year, that's been pretty standard. The 8,400 that I came up with in maintenance is actually, and you guys don't need to look at all this right now, but this
Average.
report came from Dufresne, this is our engineering report. They have an average, or they have a budget in here, it's on page 14, of annual routine maintenance that should be done, and that's what they came up with, was
And
the
is that-
8,400.
And that's based on our specific system,
Correct.
not a.
Right.
And
Chris,
this is your new,
that's the new report, that's the initial one.
yeah,
Chris Hayes was gonna go over that today and make sure what they put on there seemed reasonable,
yeah.
but, that's where that 8,400 came from, and we'll see how that goes.
But that, for all practical purposes, increases that maintenance budget that you said we've been
Yeah.
overusing by a little more than $3,000.
Right, and then if
so,
you look down below where it says repairs and contracted services, there's a $4,000 line item.
Yeah,
Those three together should cover that one maintenance line that last year you can see was about $18,000.
yeah,
We need to, when we're, I don't remember making that $4,000. We should have been putting a couple of the things in there this past year. We had broken that $4,000 out of that maintenance line before, and we didn't post the bills to there.
No.
So between those three, that should
so
cover
that's
that
why
one.
it wasn't, that's
Yeah.
why the FY16 actual is not a number there?
Zero.
Why is
Right.
that number? Yeah, okay,
Yeah.
yeah. But you could, for all practical
I could
purposes,
pull
take
some of
that
that
out of the
17,
17
yeah.
line. Yeah, okay.
The sludge disposal, the number went down. I called Chris and asked him why. He said we should be budgeting around 20,000 is average. Electricity, last year's, it was 25,000, I only budgeted 22. So we're gonna do an analysis of the bills. It seems like we're using more, cause it should be going down, we have that net metering contract.
The cost should be going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I did look at one particular bill today, it was the Landmark pump station, and 3 years ago we were using, in October, I looked at those that month for the 3 years. In October, we used 1,000 kilowatt hours less that month than we're using now. So I don't know,
For that October.
yeah. So I'm gonna do that with not all of the bills and all of the months, but I'm gonna do, and see if
A
there's,
comparison.
yeah, if
there's
we're
anything
using more
that's obvious
electricity, the
standing
rate
out,
hasn't
yeah.
really changed that much.
Yeah.
We haven't added anything new, so some things,
Only thing new added, I mean, so depending on what's going on at Landmark, I don't know their population
Right.
size, but the only thing that's been increased is the science building.
Right.
yeah,
Which
But their
is good.
population-
I wouldn't think would dramatically,
No.
I mean, it would,
and their
Maybe
wastewater
change it.
permit, they didn't get a new allocation because they said they're just shifting
Shifting,
people around the
right.
campus, so, you know, there were a couple things that Chris told me today that could, you know, might be an indication that there's, you know, it's pumping twice for some reason, because maybe there's a little, the backflow is not catching I don't know, you know, all this
so
technical
it
stuff
might
that
need a
Chris.
little, might need a
So,
little tweaking.
I told him we would look at a few different, you know, bills and see, I don't know, it just seems like it should be going down.
And we should, if that pump station is sort of a red light on several different bills, then we should explore, you know, is there a bearing going and
Yeah.
dragging it down that, you know.
Yeah, that's what Chris
you know,
said, if we get him kind of an analysis of ones he wants us, we want him
Exactly.
to check, he'll check.
If there's
them.
one that's
Yeah.
noticeably higher, then we
Yeah.
look into why.
So
that is.
I put that at 23, just kind of,
Middle.
and then what else increased? Oh, and then I upped the depreciation to 30,000. We're getting a little closer to what we actually use as a depreciation number. That just gives us some surplus, basically. Just starts building that capital for us. So I guess the bad news is that it went up, but the good news is that because we've added some users, we're not going to have to increase the rate. It's going to stay the same.
You know, we've had this discussion on and off, and you may have a clearer sense now whether we should be raising the rate anyway.
I don't have a clearer sense because that stuff is not complete.
Not
But
complete.
if you have some time, if you look through that report,
Yeah,
look at the big components and the years that they're going to need to be replaced and the replacement costs that they've put on them.
and yes, we should be up.
We should be $30,000 a year in depreciation is not enough. But I want to, once I get everything back, there's a few things we need to do, but yeah, there's some.
Should we bump it 1%?
I wouldn't this year just because
We don't.
we always
fully
can
know.
raise rates too.
I guess that's true.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be.
So, but I would hate to do it without really
Having a
clear.
good reason. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're close.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're getting
No, that's
much
fine.
closer.
Yeah.
Within the next month or so, I'll be able to give you a report on that. You know, show you what Dufresne did for us, and
Yeah.
but it's a little scary.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah. I mean, some of the really big things, we're probably all not going to be here when there's but,
That's good.
That's one way.
but I don't want to.
That's an upside, right?
I don't want
Leave the
to.
next generation.
I don't want to. I was when she was showing me. I'm looking
Our
at the
pictures
date,
will
and
be
I'm like,
off
how
the
old
wall.
am I going to be? Because I don't know that I want to be here when that happens. But I also don't want to leave it where there's no money
Right. No.
for somebody else to try to figure out where the money is going to come from.
These
So.
systems don't last forever, you know.
So
All
that's
right.
the sewer.
So that's ready for, yeah.
So, we're
Yeah,
looking
scary,
at a
isn't
motion
it?
to accept the sewer budget as presented.
Second.
Again,
Been moved and seconded to accept the FY 17-18 sewer budget as presented. If there's no further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Wow,
Checking them off.
Okay, water.
So, the water budget, let's see, overall budget has increased by 4.4%, but we also, in this, we will not have to raise rates. And most of this is due to us doing some adjustments to accounts, making sure that, they're being billed properly, and we've added some users, and we're gonna be adding some more users, especially with the big project down on, Old Depot Road. So, we actually may even be able to lower the rates in the water department. Yeah. We might. So, well, we could up the depreciation a little. I mean, because we're at the beginning stages of the water system. But this is when we should be putting away more. Yeah, so we
put a
could
little bit away now.
Yeah, we could up that. I mean, I upped it to 25,000. I mean, that right now is the only way that I'm actually
Able to
increasing
do
the fund
that,
balance.
right.
At a point in the future, we're going to do the same thing with the water department that we're doing with the sewer department to really get a clear number of what it is that we need to put away. So, yeah, we could.
And when you say that, you obviously understand, perhaps better than I do, where that money actually ends up, or
It's
does
just
it
sitting in as unreserved surplus
Okay,
in the water fund.
okay.
At
And
some point, when we have a clear picture of
we
like,
should
we
put
should-
that
I
as
should
a
be-
water fund, capital
Yes.
fund, water
Yeah.
capital fund, or whatever we would call it,
Yeah.
yeah, okay.
And maybe at this time next year, we'll be able to do that. Well, we'll definitely be able to do it with the sewer fund. Because I feel like we'll be more confident in what
Yeah.
it is that what we have for numbers. And I feel, I still am not, totally comfortable with the way that we're doing the water and sewer, but we are so much
Better.
better.
Yeah.
Yeah, as far as, feeling like we have a handle on the accounts.
And
Yeah.
equity between
Yeah.
users and, yeah.
So we could put it to 30. It's up to you guys. We could put it to 58,623, that's what we did last year.
So, a motion to accept the water budget as presented?
Second?
Been moved and seconded to accept the water fund budget FY 17-18 as presented. If there's no further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. General fund.
I just wanna, before we get into the details of it, I talked to Tom about Red Cross. That was one that we were not gonna add to social service,
Yeah.
but he was very much in
They requested
$1,000.
$1,000.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
And then
Yes.
you guys asked if it should be a social service, and then I looked up the definition of
Right,
social
didn't
service
seem
and
to
the
make
statute, and it
sense.
didn't
Yeah,
fit.
yeah.
But I did talk to Tom about it, and he felt that the $1,000 was well worth what they contribute. So, I haven't put it into the budget yet, but I will if you guys feel like we should. We could give them 500, it's up to you, what? It could be a special article.
Yeah, I did look, just, was a wise giving thing, and they are highly rated,
Yeah.
so, it's one of those ones where their administrative costs are pretty low.
Relatively low.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so, they're reputable.
I mean, if Tom is recommending it, I
Yeah.
guess my feeling would be we should go with his recommendation. It's his realm.
Okay, so I'll put that in there. We don't really need to vote on it, because the voters will vote the budget, so.
Right.
Okay, so, general fund budget. I gave you one budget. It is the budget I'm recommending, and it's the budget that includes the bookkeeper's position, the stipend for the treasurer, and the 40-hour-a-week
And
town
what
clerk
you set the stipend?
at $1,500. So that's, I gave you the one budget, because I just wanna, let's just go through them and let's talk about the line items that we either
Yeah.
need to adjust.
Yeah.
Going back and forth was just to, so can we start with the revenue side, just so I can, please? So the ones that I wanted to talk about, and you guys obviously, if you go down through and you wanna talk about something different, but I highlighted the ones that I thought were
In revenue.
well, they're grayed out. So I just wanted to point out, right now, when I was looking at this local ordinance fines, and those are that's the money we get back from the state for the tickets that are given out. I just wanted to point out with this one, right now, we're at an average, I think, of like $1,800 a month, which is pretty high, considering what we've been getting. But depending on what we do with policing,
Could drop back down.
that number could drop down significantly. If we give somebody, a position where they have policing powers, they can still give out tickets and we'll still get money. I just don't think it's gonna be as high.
Right.
So that's just something to think about, and I don't know if maybe I should lower it. It's
Well,
kind of in
that
between.
seems relatively
Okay.
low anyway, right? I mean,
Yeah,
compared to $1,800 a month, it's very low.
very low.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not that we're in the business of giving out tickets and wanting to make money through fines, I just wanna be realistic about that number.
Yeah, but
If-
I
if
also
we
am happy
don't-
to be realistic about the fact that, hey,
Yeah.
if people are speeding, they should get
Right.
tickets and we should
But what
benefit
I'm
from
saying
it.
is if
I
we
mean,
don't
that's,
go with
you
the
know,
sheriff's department next year, I'm
Right.
pretty sure that's gonna
That'll
pretty much go
mostly
away.
disappear, yeah.
But just, we can put it in there, it's not the first time we've put a number in that we don't
Yeah.
get the,
Yeah,
so that's why I picked that number, it was kind of in the middle.
yeah,
The Edweld Fund I highlighted, just to remind you that it usually was 10,000, but 5,000 of it is going to general and 5,000 to highway. The next page, the surplus line. Our unreserved surplus that's left from FY16 right now is 44,580. So I'm saying that we should not use surplus money to offset taxes because that's like 5% of our budget to keep in there just as cushion in case something
so you would
happens.
just leave it
I
as
would
surplus?
just leave it as surplus and not
Okay.
use it to offset
So
taxes.
for all practical purposes, it's a reserve fund?
Yeah,
Yeah.
but it's there
If we chose to.
if you choose
Yeah.
to. We've normally been working with like over 100,000 in surplus,
Right.
so.
Well,
I think
this
that's
other grayed area that you have here just below there, the selectmen's salaries, if we just took that down there and put it in.
Well, I highlighted that because I was wondering if you guys wanted to give yourself raises this year. And to also ask at this point, I put 1% as the cost of living for the rest of the employees. And I don't think we talked about that.
No, I've been wondering about that too.
The reason I picked one was because the
That's the
COLA is
state.
0.3,
Right, yeah,
and I rounded up, because that's the new math.
yeah.
That's my new math.
Rounding up, it would be like 0.5%.
Yeah,
but-
well, I rounded up past a half. So,
No, I mean, historically, we've gone with at least sort of 1.5% or 2%, but,
yeah, I
but
mean, it's,
given that the state or the federal has been placed so low, I don't know, I mean.
we don't have to decide that right this minute.
No, and
but-
that could be, that could be something somebody could raise from the floor too, if it,
Yeah, I mean, I've been telling everybody 1%, because that's
Yeah.
what,
yeah.
I mean, we always go with cost of living, and that's more than the cost of living right now, so.
Yeah, no, and we've gone with more than cost of living
Yeah,
in the past,
Yep.
so.
okay, so I don't know if you wanna talk about your line,
Are you
or-
looking to get approval on this budget tonight or not necessarily?
I would love it, but
But not
I don't see
necessarily,
that that's gonna
yeah.
happen. I
Um,
mean, I guess it depends on how many meetings everybody wants this month.
okay, motion to approve.
I thought we were going to get through this list. We got-
Hey, I'm fine with it, if you guys wanna approve it, but,
Um,
so I'm leaving that at 3,600, and just so for discussion purposes, the wages are at 1%.
right, no, I mean, I think, mean, honestly, unless we were really gonna give ourselves a significant raise, is it gonna make that much of a difference? I don't know. You know, I'd also, you know, as it has been with the school board getting a raise in the past, it's been raised from the floor.
Yeah. Did they do it as a separate article last year, the school board?
I thought it got raised from the
Maybe
floor,
it
added
did.
to their budget.
Maybe it
That's what
did. I
thought.
remember them talking about it, but I don't remember
I think
at
somebody
what
brought
point.
it up, yeah, I
Yeah.
can't remember how exactly, but I don't feel the need to change that, but
Okay.
you know, unless we were gonna double it or something, and then we
Yeah.
could talk about it, but I'm not sure that's a reasonable thing to do. Put an extra $100, $200, can't be gonna say it, but we could put an appeal out. Anybody out there listening?
Wants to raise it
Wants
from
to
the
come
floor.
along.
Right,
Wants to
give us a raise,
Um,
exceeded your expectations.
Okay, so I'm gonna leave that.
So leave it for the moment,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I would say.
So
Okay.
do we wanna go through all of the other ones and leave the clerk treasurer discussion for the end?
Yeah,
Okay. So contracted services, well, just the building
you're
maintenance
just
salary.
gonna go through the highlighted, is
Yeah.
what you're thinking?
Yeah, unless you
Okay.
guys see something else that sticks out to you. The highlighted ones are kind of the ones that are really different from
Right.
last year.
Yeah,
Line 100, building maintenance salary,
Oh, I
that's
see,
the
okay.
part-time
Mhm.
position that's the new highway position, but also working a little bit for the town. Contracted services, I just wanted to point out that that number includes a new copier, but leasing it. I think the
Which
last time
we-
we bought a copier was 2012, it was a refurbished.
and is it done,
Is what done?
the one we bought in 2012?
It is causing, it's not done, it still works.
Yeah,
It causes the clerk's office a tremendous amount of stress because it flips the pages when they're copying like long legal, and we've had the copier people come in and look at it a million times and they can't,
give us a
yeah,
reason.
so, and it's,
Does it have any value?
I don't know, and that's something this is just
Gotta negotiate,
Yeah,
yeah,
I
place
mean-
marker, yeah.
we'll go out and ask several companies for
Yeah.
different, but it seems like everybody's starting to lease copiers, the towns around us
Seems
are.
like it would make sense.
Yeah. The web and email services, that is new, that's changing our email service to a new service and also updating our website. I got a quote from a web company that will let you pay for it over, I think, 3 years. So,
And where
Obviously.
did we just not have something in there for that previously? It
No.
used to be Silvernet.
yeah, well, no, it was DOS Solutions. It was
Oh, that's
Daniel.
right.
Oh, for email, no,
For
for that
email
was
and
for
web.
Oh, email also?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But it's time to make a change.
Yeah,
And so that's that. We'll skip over treasurer's salary right now. The next page really, the section that I highlighted, which is FICA, pension and health insurance, that's going to change depending on what
right.
we decide. Or what budget we decide to go with. The next page is the clerk salary. And we'll
This is employee benefits just for town hall.
Correct.
Yeah.
The next page we'll skip over for now. And then the next one is the sheriff, or the public safety. Right now it's labeled as sheriff department. It could be policing services. We could change the title so it's not automatically assumed that it's sheriff's department.
We should probably go ahead and
Okay.
do that, I would say, wouldn't you agree?
Mhm.
And it certainly can stay the sheriff's department,
Yeah, but I'll change the.
but the name,
Yeah.
yeah.
So right now I have in there $47,000, which is equivalent to 20 hours a week at the rate that he quoted per hour in the new quote he got for the next fiscal year.
But that's not, that
25.
doesn't, yeah, that doesn't equal,
And this is the new, that's what he gave me for next year.
oh, 47?
Yeah,
For a full year?
yeah,
Yeah, okay.
yeah. So, we can keep it at that. Or we can level fund it, put the 57,000 in there. I think doing anything different than those two is,
Premature.
Yeah.
No, I would agree.
I wouldn't even know how to explain it
Yeah.
at that point. So, I mean, the difference is
You know,
probably 0.5% on the tax rate
Yeah,
by
given
putting the
that
57.
discussion we just had, maybe keeping the 57 in makes sense, just so we have a little bit of a buffer
Yeah.
there. I mean, am I wrong in saying that we shouldn't rush into? I mean, I'm guessing to do it properly is gonna take a significant chunk of time
Yes.
to figure it out properly. And having 10,000 in there that in some way could help us figure it out properly.
Yeah, I mean, that could
Might
be
make
an amount
sense.
that could be used to help
Exactly.
somebody, yeah.
Consultant or something, I don't know what it would be.
I mean, it
but
could be that we only want 15 hours a week and then we have
a little bit more.
15,000.
Right.
I mean, maybe that
Yeah.
20-hour week is not,
Yeah,
Mhm.
we can pick the hours we want, really, from the sheriff's department if we
Right,
want them,
right.
so.
and just adjust it, we could adjust it.
So does everybody agree that we should just level fund that with the
At
57?
I would say
Yes, I
so,
would say
yeah.
so, yes.
I'm glad she came in and talked to us about that before, that made that line way easier to.
It'd be great if she takes the ball and runs.
Yeah,
with it.
really.
That would be nice.
The next page is fire department, which Tom already went over all of that with everybody, and then this is probably gonna be a difficult one. This is the Windham solid waste assessment, which that number's set in stone, that's not a number we can adjust, but it's what are we going to do?
And remind me, as it is now, we're gonna have our dumpsters until June 30th.
Right,
Right, okay.
but July 1st, they will be gone. This number is the assessment we will pay to them for all their other services besides that.
And-
So I don't
and
think
have
Scott
you
was here
gotten-
for the
yeah,
discussion.
So let me ask, our options
Well,
going forward that are a private hauler,
Yeah,
and we would maintain the recycling dumpsters out of cost,
correct,
obviously,
yeah.
to a private hauler.
a very significant cost.
Well,
Cynthia's
yeah,
explained
that's
that,
what-
it's
that's what I'm
it's
asking.
ballpark $60,000,
A year,
Yeah.
right?
60 a
Yeah.
year.
Yeah.
Now, let me just say,
Okay.
since that last meeting that
Yeah.
Bob was here, he did call me. And he said, Cynthia, I think that there's a way that you could reduce that cost. And so we talked about it. And basically what he was saying is that the way that because the only thing I could go on is what they gave me for
Tonnage
trips
number
and
of
tonnage.
trips,
Sure.
exactly.
So he said that the way that they were collecting was not always the most efficient because it might not be full.
Right.
So
But
they
they
would
do
come.
the trips, so
they
you
would do
could
the trips.
call.
So
a
he
will
said
call.
you could,
Yeah.
but then that is who's going to go
Somebody's-
down
yeah,
there
exactly. Somebody's got to
and
deal with it.
keep monitoring it on a daily basis and then when you monitor it and it's full, how long does it take for them to come get it?
Yeah.
And then we had the discussion of, you could fence it in. You could, because the other question is,
Right,
do we wanna pay
we're creating a
60,000?
transfer station, in
Yeah.
effect.
And then hire an attendant because,
Yeah, right.
do we wanna pay 60,000
Yeah.
for everybody to use it? Or
And
is
that's
it
what,
just
that's,
money?
that's the point I brought up, which, anecdotally, I have observed cars from Massachusetts, cars
Sure.
from New York,
Yeah.
cars from
Oh,
New
yeah.
Hampshire, everybody stops there. If we were to move it, for example, to the highway department, we wouldn't have that, we would
And not to
significantly
throw a wrench in the
decrease.
gear, just turning it into a private haulage point, and that land is leased from the state or from the, as part of the fire department
Mhm.
lease. How's that all work out?
I don't think we actually pay anything for it though.
No, we don't
No,
pay
we
anything,
don't
but we
pay
have to ask
anything,
permission
but-
for everything.
Right,
we
we
do,
gotta
yeah.
get permission, and are we gonna run into some kind of regulatory
if it's not,
flap
yeah.
over that?
So the other option is obviously you can hire your own, everybody in town would either have to hire their own hauler that has to take recycling,
Mm-hmm.
because legally they have to, or Windham Solid Waste will still be providing bins in the Brattleboro location, they just won't be processing the recycling there, they will also have it taken away. So people can bring their
Could
trash.
still, not
In
their
other
trash,
words,
their
they can
recycling.
still
Well, they can-
take
yeah.
Their trash and.
what's
And their
going,
trash
what's
and their
currently
recycling.
going to the recycle bins here.
Here.
go to
Right, they
Yeah.
can still go to
recycle
Brattleboro.
bins in Brattleboro.
Yeah,
So that's basically the two options. We either hire somebody ourselves, or
And-
we could.
Well,
And
or
do
the
you-
third option is we're gonna end up with a lot more crap on the side of the roads here. Ultimately.
Yeah, I mean that was brought up last time, and
he didn't
He
think,
got-
he said data doesn't bear that out, which I was surprised by.
I hope not.
Yeah.
That's-
yeah,
It's probably, I'm guessing that's more of a trash issue than a recycling issue, but maybe not.
I mean we've had more of a problem at the recycling containers since July 1st of this year than we've had since I've been here.
Right.
Since the law changed, the recycling law came in, which, I mean, it's been horrible down there. I never had a problem for the first 3 years that I was here. Of course, there was some people that were regularly cleaning it up too, so that was part of it, but there's big stuff, I mean, they've taken truckloads.
People take all sorts of stuff.
Yeah.
No,
So,
which would be, I would think, a significant benefit to moving it somewhere, well, I'm not advocating for moving it, but I think if we did move it to somewhere where it was more limited to Putney residents,
Right.
I don't know what the source of the trash is, the mess, et cetera, but if we had a little fenced-in area down by the highway department, for example, I'm guessing it would be less of an issue, but maybe not, I don't know. I mean, if we placed it properly and had a camera on the highway department looking at it, then we could probably
yeah, I mean, then it's
significantly
just a
reduce
matter
it,
of, it's just a matter of the maintenance of it, who's, then we just have to make sure whose job is it at that point to,
Right. We're creating a transfer station.
well, I don't know that you
Well,
can
it's still,
intend it,
but it's still just recycling.
Yeah. No,
Although,
right.
Just so
right.
you're fully informed, that's another option for us, is to create a transfer
Right.
station, full on,
Yeah.
to do, not to become our own district, but to have a transfer station for both trash and recycling. We could do, which I don't think we want to. But, and then option number 4 or 5 or whatever it is to have municipal trash and recycling.
Now, I had someone in my office today that was asking me about it, he was curious about, and I told him two options. The pay for somebody to come to your house, or the Brattleboro, and he's like, oh, I'll just bring it to Brattleboro.
Yeah,
I think people were worried there wasn't even gonna be a place that you could take it, you
Right.
had to hire somebody.
right.
I'm curious how, that's a significant cost to them down here too, I don't know,
To Brattleboro, to the district.
district, but I guess they're okay.
But there's no trucking involved, so it's just tonnage. Well, they're
Well,
gonna
they're
have
gonna
to
have to pay a
taking
hauler,
it somewhere.
they're gonna have to pay a hauler themselves.
Or haul it themselves,
Yeah.
yeah.
So,
Those bags are gonna start piling up on the back porch.
Man, yeah, that's the bummer, it's just so convenient as it is, but is it $60,000 worth of convenience? It's a lot of money.
I mean, obviously, if it was managed differently, I don't think it would cost us $60,000
Right,
in trucking and hauling and all of that,
right.
because the tonnage would be down. It really wouldn't be as many trips. I mean, that, like I said, that number is based off of what we've been doing, not what we, it's the only number
Right,
we
but
can
our
do.
tonnage, I mean, if we left it where it was, even if we were managing it differently, the tonnage presumably would remain
Not if we were
relatively
only letting
constant.
Putney people in.
Right, no, that's
Yeah,
what I'm saying.
that's what I
If
mean.
we moved it or limited it,
Right.
I mean, I
Right, so
think we'd have
this
a-
is what I was saying, is that the trucking and that cost would go down, but then there's more cost because you're going to have somebody
deal with it
that's
somehow.
dealing with it.
Yeah.
So you're paying somebody. So I'm not sure you could really save I don't know, you know, unless it was at a different
I'll bet it-
location.
Well,
I mean, I do know the one in Westminster, it's at the highway garage. It is a mess.
it is.
Oh, it's terrible.
Those Westminster people.
It's they have a terrible time. I mean, they did put a camera in. I don't know if it's been better, but
That's interesting.
now, and the other part of this is that the surrounding towns, I don't know what Dummerston is doing. They're letting theirs go. They're not having them anymore. So then what happens? Are those?
Right. Anybody that lives
Yeah.
this side of Dummerston
Yeah,
is
so-
like, no, you know, given how this landscape is shifting for that reason amongst others, I think we're inviting a significant increase in cost if we take it on ourselves and leave it where it is. I think if we moved it, it would probably be much more affordable, but like you say, it would take more management.
Yeah.
Um,
Before we, I mean, obviously we wouldn't make a decision tonight to move it somewhere else, but I do know that after the meeting the other time, there's an extreme concern with having it at the highway garage. Not saying we can't put it there, it's not their garage, it's our choice. I'm just saying we need to figure that out.
And what's the concern?
I think just having people in and out of
In
there.
and out,
Yeah. I mean, in Westminster, it's in a different it's like
Right,
on the back side. It's not like right in where the trucks are and everything.
right.
Um,
No,
I
I mean, we've
just-
got plenty of room, you
Yeah.
know, on the back side of the
yeah, I
highway
just want
department. It
to
could
make
be
sure that
there.
we.
Yeah, no, I recognize that. I recognize it would be a pain in the neck, but it's a pain in the neck where it is. And,
Yeah.
and if.
They're a
if-
pain in
if-
the neck.
if-
That's just.
Right, and if we were gonna assume
Yeah.
a significantly greater level of responsibility for it,
Mm-hmm.
then we need to decide where it makes the most sense for us. And if it cuts the hauling costs by
Yeah.
$25,000 a year,
So
then
what do
I'm sorry.
what
the
do you
highway
think we
department
should
has
do
to do
about the budget? Should we leave it like this and try to
You're the
have
financial person here, aren't you? Yeah.
All right, I'll put 60,000. That's the only
Right,
number
you
I
do
can
that.
tell you what I know what it is.
Oof.
Should
And
we
did you
leave
hear
it?
back from Goodenough? Did you, I mean, they were all,
Yeah, theirs is $180 a trip. Unless they come multiple times in a day, it's 150. So I don't know.
and what was the other one?
140.
Okay.
The difference with
But
Good
the
Enough
cost
though,
for tonnage, oh, the cardboard stays out.
cardboards
Right,
doesn't
cost, yeah,
cost to get rid of.
right.
So theirs was, I mean, when you do the two,
It's probably fairly comparable.
yeah, maybe
Yeah, who knows?
$8,000 difference.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, no, I recognize that it would be a pain for the highway department, but I also think that, you know, again, if we're gonna take it upon ourselves, we're gonna have to figure out how to manage it differently.
I guess the
because-
question
because
is
we can't
how do
take
we
it away.
decide whether we take it on ourselves? Do we have an informational meeting and get the sense from people in town? Do we, because like I said, the one person I talked to today and I have had one other person that was like, well, I'll just bring it to, you know, but that's two people. I don't know. You know,
Yeah,
one
it's
person.
also, I mean, you know, I would say the same thing, but that's a.
It is a pain.
you know?
Well, and if it's gonna change too, if everyone's doing it from
Yeah.
all these towns,
Then-
it's gonna be a nightmare
Yeah,
trying to go there.
down there. Well, just for recycling, you don't have to wait online, but
Well, if
you're
it looks
right.
like
And
the
if
one in
there's-
Rockingham you do, even
I
if
was
you're
gonna
just
say,
doing
oh, is that right?
The
yeah.
way those bins
Yeah.
are set up now,
It would end up being a line.
end up being
Yeah,
closer.
true.
I mean,
Yeah.
we were talking about it today, and I said, knowing me, I would say I would call a private person and say, how much is it to? I mean, it's a significant cost,
It's a chunk of money.
Yeah. but I wouldn't have the time to go to Brattleboro with recycling.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, what's difficult is the only number we know right now is this number,
Right.
and we really don't know.
And it will definitely change one way.
And when you looked into
Or it won't,
I
and
mean,
we should
this
say
one-
people
this-
are just, yeah.
Right, people are on their own.
Yeah, and honestly, I don't know what type of, I mean, you guys
What the
live here,
response
I
is
don't know what the
gonna be.
response would be, I really
I
don't.
think people would be really disappointed,
Yeah,
but if you told them it was gonna cost $60,000 if we wanted it, then they
yeah,
probably would be pretty understanding of
Yeah.
that.
And I think
Show
that,
them what it will look like on their property taxes, and
Right, exactly.
is that, put up a real dollar,
Yeah.
I mean,
a real
it's, that's
dollar
a
amount.
roughly 3
I mean,
cent.
I
3 cent.
think that there are probably enough that would say, yeah, it is worth it, but they also in the next sentence would say, but we don't wanna pay for everybody else's too.
Right, but if it's.
So
I
that's where
agree,
we
that's
come to
what,
the-
that's
yeah.
what I'm saying, is that
Yeah.
I feel the same way.
Yeah, because
I mean,
I've already
you know,
gotten that response even with the ones down here. It's like, what, there are so many people that do not live here that are going to that.
Right, and if, I mean, if we
Well,
were able to.
that argument exists all the time, that it used to be the older argument of people using the library and who's, should we have out-of-town fees and whatnot.
Right.
It's such a hard thing to monitor.
Tease out.
Right, you're always going to have a certain amount of guerrilla dumpers,
Yeah, but this is excessive. If you look at the other towns and what their number of pickups are compared to ours.
We're like threefold.
Yeah,
per,
we're like,
I mean, it's
just,
huge.
it's access.
Exactly, no, that's why I'm
That's-
saying highway department,
Yeah.
or, we put them back here again. I mean,
yeah, well, is that, what happened with that back there? Why did we? Just because there was more space down there?
I
Yeah.
can't remember,
Yeah.
but to someone, I don't remember whether they.
Yeah, I mean, I think
access
that's
or something like that.
space.
But if it was just, I guess it was just recycling.
It is more convenient.
The other difference is it would be one well, in fact, it would be 2 less dumpsters unless we were to go with good enough, because
Right.
it would be single stream.
Right.
So, just by virtue of that alone, it's gonna be less trips probably, but, it shouldn't change the tonnage, but I don't know, that's a tough one.
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, ultimately, really what it would cost, on a per person basis or whatever, that's $60,000 on your property taxes. If it costs you $100 or $200 more a year, is it going to cost you twice that much, 3 times that much to have private hauling?
Probably.
Probably.
Yeah, no, it's.
Right, but the thing I don't know is how many
But I
already pay for a
understand.
private hauler.
Right.
Are there half? Is
Well,
it a
and
quarter?
if they
Is
do,
it?
but if they do, then they're.
But
not
these are the kind of
saying
questions in a
That's
public,
what I mean.
in a
Yeah.
public information
Yeah.
meeting, people are gonna wanna see scenarios.
Yeah.
They're gonna wanna say, how does this affect me?
And I can tell you, I can
Right,
clearly
yeah.
come up with
I
that.
know, it's-
tough to answer.
Because that's what I went to town meeting with when I was like, this is what it's gonna cost me to have my garbage picked up. This is what it costs me on my taxes. So I totally get it. People
Yeah.
wanna know that. But that, I guess it's just the timing of this budget, so.
Right.
Right, and
We've
it's a
gotta
question
cover
of
it
whether, well,
Right.
and do we want this to be a town meeting discussion, which could go on, on and on and on, or.
Well, I think
or-
I think even if we have an informational meeting, whatever you
It's still
decide,
gonna be
it's
a
gonna
town
still
meeting
gonna be a
discussion.
town
Yeah,
meeting
you're right.
discussion.
Yeah,
I mean,
Yeah.
somebody on the floor might wanna add the money in and say, yeah, we want them,
Yeah.
yeah.
Right.
I don't know, tough one. I usually have something to say, but I don't know what to say on this one. I think adding $60,000 to the budget is just not very realistic.
I don't think it is either.
I mean, if we thought it was gonna be
No.
22,000 if we moved it to the highway department, then I'd say, well, maybe we should really think about that,
Yeah.
The other reality as far as that's concerned is we're bringing a new person on and part of their job is gonna be sort of general maintenance around town. Maybe once a week they do that down there. I mean,
Yeah.
that's,
I don't,
you know.
I mean, I guess I'd have to ask what the specific concerns are. I don't think it's so, because they pick up now.
Right.
They pick up that junk.
Right, no, I'm just saying, we're gonna have a
Yeah.
person for that.
Yeah.
They've got their own dumpster down there, so for somebody to go out back, pick up a few bags of junk. and throw
Yeah,
them
but
in
I
the
don't
dumpster,
know
not
what the
that big a
other,
deal,
if it's
you
just
know.
the traffic in and out of there and.
Which is a concern, no
Yeah,
question.
and,
Yeah.
just having people in there when they're not there.
Well, I
and-
think we would limit it.
Yeah,
I think we'd have to have open hours,
Right.
exactly. I think we would definitely wanna do that, which would probably, unfortunately, maybe include a Saturday, but probably not all weekend.
Right, I think that's one of the, it's having people out of that, with all of that stuff there. I don't know, I'm just
Yeah, no, I
Yeah.
get it.
not saying that it couldn't be logistically worked out,
Right.
I'm just,
I suppose that, almost, if we took those from where they are and put them out of sight behind the fire department and put up signs saying Putney residents only, we'd probably eliminate the vast majority
you're
of
not
that.
gonna be able to put them back there, cause the power lines go, you have to be so far from the power lines. I took an act of Congress to put
Right.
that
I was gonna
trailer
say,
back
right,
there.
No, I
that,
know.
that,
I
that
think-
property
but I
is
think-
really wedged in.
Yeah, I don't remember.
It seems like there's a
It's
lot
like,
there, but there's not very little.
Not usable, yeah.
I mean, they almost didn't approve that trailer. We had to end up moving it a little further back, and
Which trailer?
the training trailer they have down there right
Yeah.
now. Okay,
Um,
well, so what do I do
We've got
with
50
this
acres
money?
up the road.
We do. That's even more out of the way of sight from anybody.
No. Just,
You mean the land?
I couldn't help myself, sorry.
There's a big, all over here, isn't there?
I'm just wondering
Got a
if-
clear cutter first.
Just putting some, like 60,000 in there, that's just gonna stimulate the conversation. Because the other option too is saying that if you want the cost down, maybe you do put it at the highway department, but we need volunteers, like they do up in Bellows Falls. You need,
Oh,
people
yeah,
really
yeah.
want,
It's-
but
I
people
know,
really
but
want.
You're
I was
opening the
gonna
way
say
to
that they have staff
you're
that
better off.
coordinate those people.
Right.
I mean,
Which
I'm not
we-
trying to be
which
a
we
Debbie
have.
Downer
No,
with everything
no,
that I say,
no.
but.
Oh, no,
But I
this
think
is,
this
this is a big downer situation, no matter what.
Sorry, Deb, I don't need to call you a downer.
But I guess the point being that there's a cost to it, whether that be
$60,000 or
monetary or
time
people
or-
pulling together and
Yeah,
trying to
or-
come up with it.
Yeah,
But there's a cost to it, period.
But it's still gonna cost just the haulage and tonnage is gonna cost.
yeah.
Again, even if we, presumably half of that is coming from within town, at least.
Mhm.
I don't know, but.
Yeah, that's the hard part, is it's such an
No idea.
unknown, yeah.
I don't know if we, this really is a sort of region-wide
Problem.
Yeah.
issue, that should be being addressed on that scale.
Well, that's,
Right. Yeah, I know.
They've
Well,
addressed it
right.
and they're
And
they're
here we
waving
are,
goodbye.
and
Yeah.
here we are, exactly.
yeah. Now, Westminster, I believe they're getting rid of theirs, but they have curbside recycling.
Right.
It's
Right.
picked up weekly.
So, yeah.
Vernon, theirs are gone, they have curbside recycling.
And
Brattleboro,
remind
Brattleboro
us-
is keeping, Brattleboro contracted with Triple T, I believe, to continue having some recycling bins there.
Over at the fair, at the high school.
Yeah. I heard Whitingham is out, they're getting rid of theirs. Guilford hasn't had theirs for 2 years.
And just remind us what your curbside costs.
I'd have to look in the book,
It's $300,000?
no, I don't think it's that much, but I wanna say like 150,
Oh, I
180,
thought it was more than
I don't quote me, cause I can't remember.
Yeah.
So, it's a lot.
It's a lot of money.
Mhm.
I mean, it makes the 60 look not that bad. But it's a different venue, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, it's trash and recycling,
Right.
so.
My guess is no matter what we do in the first 6 months to a year of this is going to be a little disappointing to somebody and or most people and force further conversation about it.
Yeah.
But
So I guess the question is do you put more money in to try to cover doing it ourselves, or do we leave this money in and then talk about it and add money if people want something different? I don't know. Like you said, do you put the 60?
yeah,
I think 60,000, even though that's based on some numbers we have, I think 60,000
it's probably high.
is probably really, it's high.
But 40 probably is not ridiculous.
No, probably
To
not.
budget for.
Yeah.
I mean, we might,
So do
we
you
might find
budget
that
an
it's
extra
36
40 and talk about it and you could go down, or do you keep the 24 in and say, look, we think maybe, just to have the discussion at town meeting? it's really, we can't figure it out tonight, we're not gonna figure anything, we just need to
No.
know,
What to put in there.
yeah,
Mhm.
and that is not for me to decide.
Right. Somewhere between 30 and 40, and stick it in there. It's easier to, well, I guess it doesn't really matter. I was gonna say it's easier to take it out than to add it in. It doesn't really matter, but at least then we have a place marker for it
Mhm.
if it's in there.
It's either way.
So,
I'd say 40.
Oh, I don't know, Scott doesn't seem. I don't know.
and if you look at the upside, we've taken, $9,000 off of the assessment, so it's really only 31,000 if we put 40 in. What do you think, Scott?
I think we could live with 40, I guess.
I mean, I think we
I
put it
mean,
in
right,
and
if
have
we
the
don't,
conversation.
right, we have the conversation, then we have the means to at least.
I think
To
that,
motivate the
I was
conversation.
gonna say, I
Along.
think that, oh, you mean add 30 more, so that's,
No, add 40 more. Oh. No, I'm saying add, you mean the different, with that difference? No, we're saying add, I mean, really what you're doing is adding another line item, 247, is recycling
okay, for 40.
for 40.
That's a lot.
It's a huge amount of money.
Okay,
No, but I think,
but I think you're right though, seeing that number, instead of not putting it in there and then saying this is what it would cost, I think seeing that number, I think people are gonna be like, whoa, wait a minute, would it really
right,
cost that
exactly,
much?
$40,000.
Yeah,
That's
I think
conversation.
seeing it first and then have the, I was thinking the other way before,
And-
but now I'm thinking that's probably, yeah,
I don't know whether we could realistically gather, I'm sure we could, I'm not sure how, some data about comparable towns and how much they produce, et cetera.
yeah, I think it's
Um,
pretty easy to find out because I'm sure they have it down at
And-
Windham Solid Waste.
And then, if we need to tweak that a little bit,
Yeah,
but it's a starting point.
okay,
All right.
okay, so now, let's see, is there anything left?
So that was the nice, easy discussion.
Now the fun
Well,
stuff.
Okay, so the social, just the next page, the social service, I'll have to adjust that to whatever the final budget is, because that's a percentage of the total. So that number's gonna change a little bit, won't change much.
Yep.
So now here comes the other discussion.
Okay. So, you certainly have heard about these conversations, but we've had some more conversations right here, but not a tremendous amount. It's a question of how to break up this town clerk versus treasurer salary, and change it to a stipend kind of thing. I mean, it's, if we put it in as 1,500, that's clearly what it is. Although, what we would want somebody to do is to come in once a week. Is that right? Ideally,
As treasurer?
as treasurer and sign checks.
Yes,
That's what they would really need to do.
yes. Let me just say, just so everybody understands, and I think the easiest thing, as far as logistically,
To give somebody else check signing authority.
would be that whoever is running for town clerk also runs for town
I agree.
treasurer that
Yes.
knows that only duty at that point is signing checks.
And,
Because
and,
they're here,
and that's a discussion that Denise and I have had.
yes.
And she, I think, what's clear at this point is that Anita is not gonna run for town clerk,
Okay.
and that Denise is gonna run for town clerk.
The question
That by
is-
no means guarantees that nobody else is gonna run for town clerk, but I think Denise, if she is not interested in taking Anita's job as it is now,
As it exists.
as clerk and treasurer. when we have discussed this scenario of there being a bookkeeper
Yeah.
and the treasurer's position being a couple hours a week kind
So
of thing.
literally, those checks would be prepared and ready for signature
Right.
for that.
The bookkeeper would
stipend
prepare them,
treasurer
exactly,
position.
yeah.
Right.
So just, you have your calculator right there, just do the math, 15, I mean, if, well, that's roughly $30 a week for somebody, so it's a 2-hour-a-week position.
Yeah.
Is for all practical purposes what we're talking about. I'm guessing if we do this, that Denise will comfortably run for that. Will she get it? Who knows? But I don't know that we would have many other people scrambling for that position if we did do that. But we certainly could have competition for the town clerk's office.
Right.
It's possible. So, did you already in this, I think I saw that you did, you already changed this to the town clerk's salary to approximate a 40-hour a week?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then if you look on that page, I also highlighted that other line, I just used the clerical line, just as kind of a placeholder of if we thought we wanted to put any money in there for additional help during a transition of whoever gets town clerk. I think we talked about it being like a,
Yeah. Oh, like a contracted service.
Yeah.
type.
Right.
Yeah.
which wasn't part of the clerk's salary, but just some money there.
Yeah.
I don't know that that's absolutely
Necessary.
necessary.
I'm not-
I didn't get the
Well,
sense
especially
from
if we have a bookkeeper.
Right,
I mean, I think that if somebody were trying to jump in and take the whole thing and streamline
that's
it,
different.
then that would be important.
Right, and where does the bookkeeper show up?
It's under my.
It's on the same
general
page
government.
as the treasurer's salary.
Okay.
It's on page,
Which line?
Yeah.
line 99.
And that's based off of, I think, 15 hours a week at $15 an hour.
Which we feel reasonably confident that that's close to accurate. Okay. Anita has expressed that this is not particularly what she wants to see happen. Anita, in an ideal world, would have Denise run for town clerk and basically at that 40-hour a week, I think, position, and have herself run for the treasurer position,
At
you know,
18 hours a week or whatever.
something like that, exactly, which, and, you
Which
know,
is
I
right
think
now,
that,
so.
I think that, I don't think my sense is that she does not necessarily want to hold that position for any period of time, but that she would like to have the luxury to essentially sort through it over several months and then step out of the position and potentially have it be appointed by the select board to somebody else. I did not indicate to her one way or the other whether that was something that we were willing to consider realistically or not. I do not think it's realistic to keep the treasurer's salary at $22,000. You know, I mean, if we wanted to do this a little more equitably as far as that's concerned, you could take the 22, take the 12,000 that's being put towards
right.
bookkeeper and take it from that and leave 10,000 as a treasurer's salary. And then presumably, if you were gonna do that, you would potentially reduce the town clerk's salary, but I'm not sure that makes sense. Cause I think we all agree that the town clerk's job is really a 40-hour week
Yeah, I mean, that's
position.
the sense that I get, and I think that
Yeah,
Denise
I
has
think
been
that's
comfortable
realistic.
with that.
Yeah, no, I agree.
And Anita has been comfortable with that
Yeah.
number, knowing the workload that they have,
Yeah.
especially with keeping a 20-hour week position as an assistant or whatever. That,
Exactly,
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, I didn't get the sense from anybody that they felt that that wasn't enough for town clerk stuff only.
So, you know, I mean, I hate to be the chair of the select board that decides to eliminate a position that Anita would like to have, but I'm not sure it's realistic to keep that position in this.
And she expressed that she's ready to not run for clerk?
Anita,
Yeah.
she's not gonna run for clerk. She would run for treasurer. If it were, I'm guessing with a salary of 1,500, she will not run for clerk. If the salary were, half of what it currently is, she might, I don't know.
I guess the only thing that I'm wondering, and whatever you guys decide obviously is what we'll put in the budget, but what is that logistically going to look like for work? Like are you keeping money for the bookkeeper too? We'll have a bookkeeper too?
I think we have to,
So then
because,
how does that, who does what?
right, no,
Who does what and how does it look going?
And I'm not advocating for.
No, I know, I
keeping
just
this.
wanna make sure that we,
No, I mean,
If-
again, that's what I was saying, well,
I mean, in effect, this is a reorganization of the
of the
pyramid.
treasurer's
Right,
position.
of the positions. And, it's either you do so completely.
Or we go somewhere in between, or we stay with
So
what we
right,
have.
how do we find our,
But,
what's this?
right, but the treasurer
Path
and
between.
clerk's salary have been, sort of tied to each other by equaling out to roughly a 40-hour-a-week
Right.
position. But it's clear that that's not enough time for the clerk. So I think we're, if we were confident that we could get a competent treasurer by leaving the salary as it is, or by
To
having the
perform the
bookkeeper salary
functions.
plus,
Right,
exactly,
right.
for, whatever,
Perform these
$14,000 or
functions
$15,000,
effectively.
could we get, that's a gamble. I
as an
mean,
elected,
as an elected position. I mean, the problem with a partial salary like that is that you have to have the person that is looking for a partial salary. And, I think for an elected thing, they're probably really either looking at that stipend side or
Oh, no,
at a fully salaried position.
I think the change to a stipended treasurer is a very good idea with a professional bookkeeper. It keeps the flow going, and the town clerk, sort of actually separate these two a little more than
Absolutely.
they have been traditionally
Which they,
for a period of time. But that's not to say that was in prior administrations
it
of
might have been
I
appropriate.
was-
tenures of,
Yeah.
of people.
I mean, that's how it was
Right.
in Westminster for a long time. It was both, and it still is, both clerk and treasurer, but they have bookkeeping, they have higher.
Clerk and treasurer is one person, or it's two
It
people?
is, but for a long time it was two,
Right.
and then it went to one, and then they did like a hired bookkeeper position, which ended up
And
being.
do you know what the breakdown, or approximately what the breakdown on salary is?
No.
I mean, is the treasurer, if they hired a bookkeeper, is the salary?
It happened to be the same person at that time.
Yeah,
It was
right.
just for that particular point in time, it was, that part of the position was
Separated out.
hired.
Yeah,
Well, and I mean, when I put all this together, I think I told you guys that there were several towns that I talked to that this is kind of the shift that people are making. I mean, obviously, I would love it if Anita was on board, because I don't, like you said, I don't want to be the one.
none of us want
None of us want to
to
be,
force that.
but I have to look at it as what is the work that needs to be done.
And a practical,
And what is
for me, it's really a question of how realistic is it to think that you're gonna, again, find a treasurer at a salary of, say, $20,000?
Right.
Because 22 is too much. I mean, if you put that, if you combine the stipend with the 11,700, you're really looking at $14,000. That's a tough sell, I think. I don't know. And again, a gamble going forward. That you're
Well, and
getting somebody
I think the
that's gonna
argument you
actually
would
do it.
hear is, well, you're asking to hire a bookkeeper at only 11,700.
Right.
So who are you gonna find for that? But it does not have to be the pool is bigger. It's not an elected
Right.
official.
Exactly.
They're
No,
gonna have
that's
to
what
be a Putney
they
resident.
don't
Not
have,
saying that they
exactly.
wouldn't be.
No,
but the
that's
pool is
no. I'm
bigger
saying exactly
to-
the same
yeah.
thing. No, I think a treasurer at that salary level would be hard to find. An elected treasurer at that salary level.
Yeah.
I think somebody's looking either to really get paid or just to get a stipend. You
Yeah.
know. You know, is 1,500 the appropriate stipend for that treasurer? Seems to be about right. At, you know, if you said $15 an hour at 2 hours a week, then that's the ballpark that it's in. You know, it doesn't make me think that the select board.
I was about to say that
Make
makes
what-
it.
Yeah, you guys are
the
working
treasurer
way more than
makes,
2
yeah.
2 hours a week?
But
Well,
that-
you can make
but
your
that's
plea
different.
again.
So we could drop this to 12. And you know, I hate to say it, but this seems like the most logical approach. We all recognize that this is unfortunate for Anita, but that it is probably the best decision for the town going forward, especially given that treasurer that's a 3-year position, right?
Yeah,
So, you know, if we were to keep it as it was and Anita weren't to stay, then we're juggling that in 6 months or a year or whenever it is from now. And, you know, I think we'd rather have somebody, and
And particularly if the ball gets dropped. in
Who's
some
dealing with
fashion.
it, right.
Right.
And again, my sense from Denise is that she would probably run for both positions if it were set up this way. You know,
This way.
yes.
Yeah, okay.
And that other, you know, and she's not pushing for that, she's not pushing to have Anita removed, but, you know, I said, if that's what we were to decide to do you think you would be likely to do that? She said, I would certainly consider it, you know, so. Changing times, you know,
all right, well, we're not voting on it tonight,
okay.
because I think there's some other things that, there was one other thing that I needed to look at, wasn't there, or no?
It'd be nice to try and find a little bit more accurate information about the recycling.
Okay, yeah, let me do that.
You know, if we could come up with a number that we at least could back up and say,
Yeah,
This is why we.
X number of
this
towns
is
are
why
doing
we're
this and
doing
this,
this.
exactly.
yeah. Do we wanna have a meeting next week though, just for this?
You probably do, don't you?
Well,
just
we were
finish
trying to
it
do
up?
the timeline today. She's on a short schedule for the town report. A little bit shorter because there's a few days she needs to be out. So I want to
Okay.
make sure that I don't load her up.
And when is your town report due?
Well,
I don't have a final date from the printer, like when they actually need
Usually around the
everything,
20th.
yeah.
but it's usually that.
But I would like to be able to give her everything except for the stuff that we have deadline dates we have to wait for. So that she can just feel confident when she's out for a few days that she can,
The other thing
that she's
that,
not scrambling and
the other
stressed out about
thing,
that.
the other reason I would say we should have a meeting next week is because then that gives people at least a couple weeks to think about a petition if anybody wants, if people want to run for that. When are petitions due? 19th.
Oh,
right?
yeah, nah, the 31st.
Oh, they are?
Yeah, I
Oh.
think I asked Denise today.
I think the sooner we do that, the sooner it clarifies that that's the route we're going.
What the-
and then
yeah,
people
what's-
decide whether they're gonna run for
Yeah.
something or not.
Okay, so next week we'll just do general fund budget.
General fund.
Okay, and I'll get some more information on recycling. Try to get some comparisons with other towns when they have it set up in different locations and stuff. Use maybe their trips and their tonnage as a basis.
Just population based,
Yeah.
essentially. I mean, and then we can probably, you know, just given our history, we can probably bump that some because we know that we're a heavy user, but,
Yeah.
but at least we can base it on something.
Right, so I would say we're pretty close. I may send in the next few days an updated one to you and let you know what it does to the tax rate. Because right now, this budget, we're actually down, overall, we're down 3%.
In what we're collecting from taxes?
No,
Or
we're down,
just
the overall budget is
budget?
down 3%. But because we don't have any surplus to offset, you know, it might
It'll
even
even out,
out,
yeah.
but, so I think when I looked the last time, it was, with this budget, it was like up a penny, the tax rate was, so.
You want wanted to do a little bit of a town manager report?
Yeah, I
or
just
not?
wanted to let you know that the sidewalk, construction bid is going out hopefully by the end of next week for the
Alright.
second phase. We got the green light from the state yesterday.
Good.
This, at the end of January, there is a town forest recreation planning summit, and it's up in Berlin.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, and it sounds like, I just got this today, it sounds like they're looking over the next 3 years to work with the 10 communities to support town forest
Oh.
activities.
Can we make a copy of that?
So, yeah,
or
I'll
can I
make a
take that?
copy.
Or
Do you want a copy?
Alice, I know Alice.
Yeah,
will
no,
want a
Alright, well,
copy.
let me, because
want a
I
copy
would
too.
like if somebody, I'm gonna let the Conservation Commission know about this, it's free. And you can bring it to Alice.
Alice will definitely.
Yeah.
let me know.
Okay, so I will do that. I just opened it tonight before. That you already looked at. I guess there was one other thing, but while you're signing warrants, I might think of it.
Everett Prescott auto gun and handheld device. What is that?
EJ Prescott, it's our
Oh,
meter
good.
reader.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Did you have a question?
No. No. I was just clicking through this and then.
Okay, yeah, I'll make a
I
copy for
think you're
everybody.
good. The ironic thing about the recycling bins is that having them there basically encourages recycling.
Which we, of
Which
course,
we
want
want,
to do.
you know,
I
by
know,
anybody.
no, that's the,
You know,
yeah.
I mean, ultimately, we
Well,
want
and the
everyone to
whole-
recycle, but
The
it's
whole
crazy.
thing about this is now,
Yeah.
It's crazy.
now we're going to be towns, if they opt to go on their own, we're just gonna have a bunch of trucks on the road driving to Rutland or
Mhm.
Yeah, I know, it's,
Right,
it's,
Really
fix
is
one thing and-
surprising that it's,
Yeah.
not a more manageable issue,
But the bottom line is, you
The
know,
bottom
and
line.
yeah, the
Yeah,
bottom line.
that's-
And
yeah.
1 + 1 is 2, and if you're spending 10, it doesn't work.
yeah.
And that's, you know, the district, unfortunately, I think when they were making a lot of money,
They didn't plan appropriately.
Yeah.
But I'm guessing even if they had,
they wouldn't, they probably.
by a
still
couple
wouldn't.
years, but it's
Yeah.
not gonna
I
change the
mean,
long-term gain,
The
you know?
recycling commodities just,
well, yeah, who would have thought they would have dropped like that? Everything,
Yeah.
scrap,
Yeah.
everything, it's just,
Yeah.
well,
you know,
surprised me, you know, I was surprised.
yeah.
I did learn something. This was the other thing, and I should have made a copy, but we need to be thinking about town report
Oh, yeah.
dedication,
Okay.
and
Yeah.
we'll talk about that
Yeah,
next,
that is.
next meeting. And if anybody wants to nominate somebody for citizen, what is it called, citizen of the year? No. What was it called?
Person of the year?
Person of the year.
Oops.
I'll make a copy of this tab first.
You want all these? He's not quite done hanging.
So what is this one, out of curiosity? So this,
I would guess, I would guess somebody applied to the White Whitney Fund because their vehicle was broken
oh,
down
I see.
to get it repaired,
Yes.
you know?
Okay,
Yeah.
I did wanna let you guys know too that this month, I think it's the 25th and 26th, I'm gonna be going to Westminster, the police barracks, they're having a training on basic public information officer training, which I'm for the emergency management plan, I'm the information officer. So this is a basic, you know, how to talk to media. No, I'll take it, I just wanna let you guys know that needed to be decided. So that's happening, those 2 days.
21st?
I think it's the
25th.
25th and 26th,
Mm.
if I remember correctly.
All right. Anything else? Motion to adjourn,
So moved.
Probably enough,
Second.
don't you?
all in favor?